Whereabouts are you?
So right now I'm in Maine. I got a summer home up here, and predominantly I'm in northern Massachusetts. So about 40 minutes north of Boston.
Very good. And come September 7th, you're going to be in Toronto, Canada, for Global Elite Arm Wrestling 1, which is what I'd love to
Correct.
talk to you about today, which
Yep.
is going to be streamed live on Millions pay-per-view if you can't make it to the 6 in person. How are you feeling about that, Rob?
Yeah, I feel pretty good about it. I mean, in this game, you're always walking a line. When you've done something for as long as I have, you either feel undertrained because you're playing it safe, or you feel overtrained and you might pick up some nagging injuries. So it's walking that line. But I'm excited about the promotion they have up there. I got a bit of a history against the guy I'm going with, and it's always good to go visit my fellow Frenchmen up in Canada and see some of the old faces I haven't seen in a while.
Well, what's training been like? What's preparation been like for you?
I did a couple months of taking some time off because I had some nagging injuries, but I'm back at it now. My daughter's getting heavily invested in the gym, so I feel like I'm taking the right steps I have to recoup as much as I can, as well as try to progress and get strong. I'm probably at it more than I've been in a very long time, but that's just a case of, you can only do so much in a compressed amount of time. So, I mean, right now for effort, if it was a report card, I get an A plus. I'd say about 3 months ago, I might have got an F. But hey, I'm on the horse and I'm trying.
And was that taking time off kind of intuitively to recover? Were you going through a period where you weren't motivated? What was it?
I think that that went hand in hand with picking up an injury. I think it made me a little bit discouraged because some of like my lifts and performance were dropping, so it discouraged me. And of course, I'm up here in camp world. It's easy to fall into some of the pitfalls of sitting by the campfire every day and having a little bit too much fun. But yeah, I think part of it started off is just taking the time to let my body recoup, and now I'm back at it. So I feel good about where I'm headed.
And I guess you did mention you're facing Alan Ford now in September 7th. You do have an interesting rivalry. Could you speak a little bit about your history with Alan?
Yeah, I mean, Alan's been in the game probably even longer than I have, and we've at times he's been at the very top of the heap, as have I, and we've bumped into each other at odd times in our careers, and we've had some back and forths, but I always feel like there has always been something muddying up the result. I feel like he's a very talented puller. He's very different in style than me. He's the guy who doesn't look super powerful, but is. He's very explosive, very technical, likes to play the game a lot. I'm more of a guy who looks the part and plays the game with a lot of fundamentals and strength. So we look contrasting, but similar accolades. And we've had mixed results, but I think we've met each other on times where there was some extenuating factor. I've had injuries in the past, or he's had life things that have knocked him off of training, different organizations with different rules. So, I mean, it's been kind of a back and forth type thing that'll be interesting to see play out probably 10 years since we last met.
And I guess what have those 10 years been like for you? Like, talk to me about your competitive journey a bit.
Yeah, I mean, those 10 years since we last have pulled, I would say Allen probably faded off a little bit, such as, guys our age do once you have family, kids, life, careers. Um, I stayed at it in and out a little bit myself, but I had a good run of dominance where the leagues that had come along and the matches I've taken, I had a really good strong run for 10 years where, in and around my weight class, I was pretty much untouched for quite a while until COVID came.
Very good. And talk to me about the accolades you mentioned earlier on.
Yeah, accolades are basically any major tournament that's come down the pipe in North America or that I've gone to. I've either, won, placed very high. If there was a league and there was a champion to be crowned, we've had leagues come and go. But the predominating leagues and tournaments of the time, I've pretty much won all those and championed all of those. If there was a both arms, I would do that left right. National championships, when those were running real strong, I've won those multiple weight classes left right. So, basically, if there was a mountain to climb, I'd say at some point in time I climbed it.
And one thing you did mention was kind of technique, different styles, the contrast between you and Alan. What does someone who's never watched arm wrestling before need to know before watching a match that is as competitive and technical as the one that's going to occur between you and Robert, or you and Alan, rather?
Okay,
Sorry.
the first thing people need to understand that needs to be addressed is arm wrestling is not arm wrestling, and you don't move your body like this. You don't just rotate with your rotator cuff. You actually, your arm is a connection so you can express all your other power from your body on it. If you show me a good arm wrestler, they're probably a very strong person through their body. Because when you're arm wrestling at the highest level, you're using your bigger muscle groups as well as the arm and the hand and the wrist as the connection point. But it would be very hard to understand all the nuances unless you're very experienced, because arm wrestling is very complex. There's a lot more going on there than meets the eye. I would imagine it'd be like people can see little nuances and movements with jujitsu, but you don't necessarily know what's going on. You just see guys rolling around. But when you're schooled in the game, you kind of see the different position changes and hand grabs and things like that. Arm wrestling is very much the same. You're not going to know as much as somebody like me watching it, but it's a lot more technical and there's a lot more going on. And it all connects from fingertip all the way down to really foot placement. And, people have this misconception that you're cheating if you lean, if you put your foot up. When you're in the high level of arm wrestling, it's basically anything you could do while your elbow's on the pad to manipulate someone's arm down. And that leaves a lot of freedom to add an awful lot of power and leverage. So if you're never watching it, you just got to get some of those misnomers out of your head that, it's like what you used to do on the lunch table. This is far more advanced, and people have figured out ways to manipulate the human body at a much higher level.
With that being said, you must have been the most popular kid in the school, though, when you were just flattening other kids at the lunch table.
Yeah, I had a run with school where it was pretty cool to arm wrestle, and then all the liberals took over and thought that arm wrestling caused hurt feelings and hurt arms and people to get upset, so they kind of stopped it. So, yeah, I guess I had a run of being the lunch table arm wrestling champ for sure.
Very good. And one thing I did want to talk to you about was you're outspoken about problems in the sport, and you have been a lifetime drug-free athlete. That's something you've stated on a number of occasions. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Are there issues in the sport of arm wrestling with respect to drugs?
Yeah. I would say that if I'm being realistic, and you look at the rankings and the world rankings and placings in the major tournaments and who's cashing in the money, uh, drugs are a deciding factor in who's willing to do the most and go the hardest. I mean, they are. You can see transformations of people that would absolutely blow your mind. Double in body weight, double in size, double in strength. I mean, it's now an arms race. It's no longer about who could train the hardest and who's got the most durability and mind for the sport and genetic gifts and potential and so on and so forth. It's more about you could take an average guy and science experiment him into being an elite athlete. And I have a big problem with that, because if it's not curbed, it just comes down to who's can get the next drug, the next compound, or who's the biggest responder. Then it's not even about athletics anymore. It's just vessels of who can withstand and is the most willing, depending on what their incentive is. Some of these countries are basically poor countries. So if they're given the option to make a salary by winning a world arm wrestling championship, but to win that salary, they've got to do ABC. Well, they'll do ABC and be wide open to if it takes DEF to do as well. So it's hard to compete on that landscape. Um, yeah, and I have a problem with that. I think it still needs to be addressed. I mean, it's a problem in all sports. It's a problem in high schools right now. I got a daughter in high school sports. It's a problem. I mean, drugs are a problem, but people don't want to address them because, for the most part, most of the people who don't want to address them are benefiting from them.
And are you tested? Have you been tested across your
I've
career?
been tested. I went to a tested super match out in Montana in the beginning of the year. And of course, people try to shoot holes in it, saying, oh, well, you could have got off cycle and whatnot. But I mean, I like the idea that what I do is me doing it. You know what I mean? Sure, I could probably double my bench press over a point in time if I wanted to get on a bunch of gear, but that's not me. If I hit my ceiling, I got to figure out a way to get past that ceiling with work, nutrition, training and stuff like that. But if you go shoot a bunch of gear and you double your number, well, did you do it or did the gear do it? You got to think about that. But no, nobody's really testing, except one of the world organizations only tests a small percentage, and it's kind of botched. And then I did a tested match. So I would test anytime, but a lot of people aren't really too hot on that idea.
I guess to switch gears quickly, you're facing Alan now in September. I guess future aspirations. Are there any athletes you admire or dream matchups in future?
Yeah, I mean, very much like I have a rival with Allen. There's Todd Hutchings is right now a guy who's at the top of the food chain, and he's been for quite a long time. And we have a checkered history, back and forth. But in some of the major events, he's got the W on me. But I feel partially as I never got to meet with him at a position that I feel that I was very trained and heavy and in a good place. So kind of like conquering that boogeyman, especially where he's doing really well. I'd be interested as I move forward with progressing in this path I'm on right now.
And I guess you're working with Millions now. Delighted to have you on board as part of the team. Are there any brands you're a fan of you'd like to collaborate with in future?
Yeah, the only brand that I really get down with right now is Boston. Uh, Mark Wahlberg's Municipal. His guy reached out to me, and being a Boston athlete myself, and sent me and my daughter some shirts, and I thought it was very generous. But I'm not one to blow smoke. I think the clothes are nice quality, and I like his movies. And if I'm gonna pimp something, why not take care of somebody who reached out to me and was good by me? So I think that they're got a great thing going. They just pimped off on the Boston Celtics to be the brand for them. So maybe they're blowing up and whatnot. But I think Municipal's got a great direction with where they're going.
That's cool, Rob. You seem like a very, very genuine, very authentic guy. So I would love to see where that goes in future. Because I think you will be an authentic voice and a compelling one at that. Before I let you go, um, give me your aspirations for the future beyond Todd Hutchinson and beyond the dream matchup. Where do you want to go in arm wrestling as you approach kind of the later end of your career? I know you've been doing this for a very long time.
Yeah. So for me, it's like a conquest to prove that I can go for a long time. That this doesn't have to be the later part of my career. Maybe this could be a second coming and get to a better place than I've ever been. I'd like to secure a title in the major leagues that are out there. I'd like to be recognized as the number one guy in the world in my class universally, um, and doing it naturally. And I think right now the landscape is what I talked about. A lot of people think that that's not really possible, let alone a 44-year-old guy really trying to get back on the horse and hit it hard. I believe for me it is. And I think that's going to be a story in itself because in that I've had to fight my own personal demons, which God knows I'm riddled with. So if I can get a handle on those and not be my own worst enemy, I do think all that stuff that I want is within my grasp.
Well, Rob, you're dead right with one thing. You'll make a hell of a story, and I'm looking forward to telling it. Brother,
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I want to thank you for your time, man, and I want to wish you the best of luck. September 7th, Global Elite Arm Wrestling. You can get tickets to the event on their website, but if you can't make it in person, it will be streamed live on millions.co, so be sure to check it out. Rob, thank you again so much for your time, brother. I'm really looking forward to seeing you compete.
Yes, I appreciate it. It was nice talking with you as well. And anytime in the future, just hit me up.
For sure, for sure. Rob, take care, brother. Have a good one. I'll see
Cheers,
you.
buddy.